Bit Economy Theory, Chapter 1, Part 2. There are many corporations and groups that have come to realize the power and value of information. These, because were brought by this current economical system, failed to see advantages in using the assimilated information in order to produce value to themselves instead of sharing it, since the actual economical system retributes secrecy and since competition is stronger if secrets are kept. These companies explore individual information for their own benefit, which brings at least two main issues into question. The first regards the ownership of that information. The second, the capacity to analyze the data in other perspectives than the ones that enforce their status quo. However, this is not the best outcome for the individuals. If for one side it allows the possibility for the existing and gathered information to be processed. For other, these corporations use it to improve themselves and the way they do business, preventing the individual growth. For this reason, there is a permissive shadowing in the way that these corporations come around and do their business in such an extent that can be more harmful than supportive for the individual general growth. To know about oneself should be considered one of the most important developments, and the information that each people produces should not be owned by any corporation that have as a primary goal to improve their financial margins. Instead of improving the same individual's development unless one chooses it. Today, even though it's been disguised, the choice is no longer of the individual. To a point, it has become forced. This problem is well related with the momentary monetary value, which no longer translates into the real and perceived value of a product or service, being stringed still to old localized development points that are no longer the best indicative measurement of the value these products and services encompass. For this reason, by assigning value on money itself and not assigning value to individuals, the actual system is not producent and productive towards humanity, but instead into itself. In simpler terms, it's valorizing money something that is in fact abstract, instead of adding value and useful value to individuals and the system that all humans are a part of. So, how would the bit economy theory system work? By understanding that each individual is currently and at any given moment generating information, being this new to himself or to others, then is necessary to create a platform that can store it. This would then create an history of information of each one. However, this history would be private to access only by the individual for its own growth, being possible for one to share specific content, and it would be towards specific groups, direct links that one would identify of being a part of. These groups would be defined by the individual throughout his life and would have to be acknowledged by those that were specifically selected. Till this part, all the generated and aggregated information is counted and can only be processed by quantity. In doing so, it's possible to generate an economic structure based upon the amount of information gathered and translated into a growth scale. This is this in turn can produce direct credit revenue. This revenue can be compared and evaluated according to basic needs of everyone in this system, allowing to create a well-defined basis for an universal basic income in such a way that allows everyone to live and cover their own basic needs with it. This would eliminate uh, poverty and homelessness, for instance, since there was no more reason not to be self-sufficient, and there would not be possible to justify the practice of begging and even robbery. At the same time, it is possible to improve production, because production in itself would also be connected towards information. And by creating a visual system that could put one's input compared with a median growth, which is also the number that would guarantee the basic income, one could see if his own growth was more or less than the median, creating a level of competitiveness. Also, the growth would be an economical indicator that would make those that are not bounded to the competitive level and still want to contribute to society, and even those that don't want to directly get involved, which in a way makes this system permeable to all people, independent of any actual ideology or political tendency, religion, or even cultural background. Furthermore, there is a major potential in sharing. Sharing information is the emancipation of knowledge, which it has been regarded as wisdom previously. By sharing information, individuals earn direct credit for the usefulness perceived by others of that information. For that matter, there is an actual interest in share it instead of keeping it, which will augment the individual's income. This will in turn allow the individual to develop towards his capacities that are most needed and allow some freedom of action without the need to fully align with the group or ideology. Lastly, there is a big potential in the governing chain in a way that gets closer to the full concept of democracy, specifically in what regards with power and group dynamics. Finally, there is the necessity to introduce one last notion, which is the global wisdom. This concept can be understood in the same way dogmas are held in the current system. Uh, uh, However, this would be scientific based and need to be understood by the majority of the individuals and perceived as useful information to the majority of the population. This could be some new information that could jumpstart new knowledge, but ultimately needs to be processed and understood as wisdom that translates in necessary global added value. By doing so, this kind of information can be understood as such importance that in the BT system translates into the new gold standard. In conclusion, those that already tap the understanding of that value of information have been using it to further themselves. But the truth is that it is an essential part of human nature, and the longer we persist without connecting it to humanity in general, the longer it will take for humanity to start to identify itself as a single organism, mutilating itself and its own growth for momentary satisfaction or short-term goals. End of chapter 1.